Imagine like three-fourth of a crude oil is available in one country. Imagine that way. Then you can take crude oil using a shovel or a bucket. But for cobalt in Congo, that is a story. Mention if you remove cobalt from your smartphone battery, you have to plug your smartphone every once in a while. So around say 30 years, it is going to expected to grow around 500%. So if the people are having this life in this particular stage, you can imagine how much worse it will happen, and if it is growth is happening to be 500%. Their water, their lives, their school, education, all what you think normal there, it is not there. Lithium ion battery, maybe you will be excited to see 10,000 or 20,000 mAh in your electronic specification. In that excitement, if I tell you there is some sufferings or stories of slaveries, abuse and all these things, that's what our book is talking about today. Cobalt Red, How the Blood of Congo Powers Our Lives by Siddharth. So welcome to Book.Tips. Myself Ramesh. Let's get started. So quick summary about the book. As I mentioned, rechargeable batteries, cobalt, a mineral, it's an important ingredient of the battery, because without that you cannot have a sustainable battery. That's just an introduction about what the title is all about. Cobalt Red. Red is something about the blood, or yes, as it is mentioned in the caption, the bloods of the lives of children. It's having like untold stories of mysteries. We'll talk about that. We'll talk little science, little history, little politics, all about that. Interesting book. It's at the same time a New York Times bestseller, and also is a winner of Frederick Douglass Book Prize, Siddharth, a nice author. So we'll talk about unspeakable riches and untold slavery of Democratic Republic of Congo. Lithium ion battery and how the blood of Congo is powering it, because it's a majority of the world cobalt is getting, or the reserve is already in Congo. And it's a crude oil of future, because if you consider it that way, for example, your phone will have something like a 10 to 20 milligram of cobalt is required for your battery. If I take it an example, I'm not sure how much precise it is. But compared to that, for an electric vehicle like a Tesla or any other electric vehicle, it requires around 10 kg of cobalt. So that means we are into an age where we are having this non-renewable resources and all these challenges and all these things. So we are going into an EV eras and all, and we are surrounded by electronics as well. So that's where this is going to get more like our chip war in our channel, similar to that. A crude oil or cobalt is a crude oil of the future. We'll talk something about cobalt physics and chemistry, how that is important. Not much, but a little. Electric vehicle, I already mentioned. Politics and colonization of Congo, because this country has a long, around maybe 300 or 400 years of pain and suffering it has to tell, starting from the imperialist colonialist part to the latest political intervention by Soviet, United Nations and USA and all these parts, and aristocratic, like bureaucratic, that's on failures also. So we'll talk there. And survival of the fittest. To live there you have to do something, even for schools, child labor. Students cannot have enough money to go to school, and they go to mining. You will get money enough to that. So at least even some parents like to send their kids to school. They used to send to mining, so that money they will try to pay to school. Somehow it is that way there. So slavery and laws, even though many big electronic giants, not only many, maybe almost all electronic giants you use, the companies, everyone is taking the cobalt reserve from Congo. But still, all are telling we are following the humanitarian laws and all these things, but nothing is going there. If you look at the Congo's cobalt trucks there in some of the cities like Lubumbashi and all these things, you will understand how the world economy is moving. If you see a lot of trucks, then world economy is booming. If you don't have that much trucks, so that much it is interconnected to the world economy. Still, these people are like, they are not at all being attended or considered part of this one. Even the value of their life, many people just lost their lives in the tunnels of while digging and all these things, and nobody care. Even the census of this country is not even done in last 2 decades or something. That's a quick summary about the book. Let's get started further in detail. Quick disclaimer, as I mentioned, there is information, views, opinion. We are going to talk about multiple countries, politics and wars and all these things, atomic bombs, all other parts. So, but this is for information purpose only. If anything hurts anybody, it's purely coincidental. Thank you. Unspeakable riches. That's a chapter 1. Imagine like 3/4 of a crude oil is available in one country. Imagine that way. Then you can take crude oil using a shovel or a bucket. So if that is a situation, which is unlikely to happen for crude oil, because you have to have too much digging on the crude oil to get the fossil fuels and all. But for cobalt in Congo, that is a story. It is everywhere. It is part of the African copper belt. And just like with a shovel, if you take a soil, you will find cobalt there. So, just the importance of cobalt, as I mentioned, if you remove cobalt from your smartphone battery, you have to plug your smartphone every once in a while. Now you are plugging it maybe once a day. You plug it at night and then you're using it for 1 day, 2 days, all these things. But if without cobalt, no. So 10% of copper is in Congo, 50% of cobalt reserve all over the world is in Congo. And importantly, currently around 72% or 75% of the whole global supply of cobalt is coming from Congo. I'll give you some background about the importance of some minerals and all. For example, in 1800s, we have something called ivory of elephant. That was important for making pianos, keys and all these things, and false teeth and all. And when it come to 1890s, because when the cars or vehicles was there, rubber was getting importance. So even the rubber was there in Congo also, people was getting exploited. In 1900, we have palm oil, which is used for soap. That was a boom that time. 1910, we have copper, tin, zinc, silver for industrialization and all. On 1900s, that was the importance of minerals. 1945, we have gold, we have diamond, and importantly, we have uranium. You know why? For making atomic bombs and all, nuclear weapons. In 2000, tantalum and tungsten was most important for making microprocessor and all. In 2012, we have cobalt. Cobalt is used for batteries, and the boom continues. If the continued demand of the cobalt from now, for example, from 2018 to 2050, so around say 30 years, it is going to expected to grow around 500%. So if the people are having this life in this particular stage, you can imagine how much worse it will happen, and if the growth is happening to be 500%. As I mentioned earlier, it has been part of European colonization. Belgium was a colony of that. Then later on, one of the freedom fighter, independence and all, Patrice Lumumba, he tried to just get part of this one by support of Joseph Mobutu and Kassi Basu. Then it was having its own stories there. But the soul of Congo, if you look at this country, soul of Congo is the Congo River. It is like a crescent. That river is, even because of that crescent shape, it pass equator twice. And it is, when it reach ocean, actually, this will take almost like 100 kilometers of that much mud and all to this. So that river is so important for the lives of Congo. But somehow their lives are in such a situation that even because of such issues, their water, their lives, their school, education, all what you think normal there, it is not there. Which you think like take it for granted. In our lives, it is not in their lives. So just something about cobalt, like fully refined cobalt with other metals is used to make cathodes and all. So Persian Empire used to use cobalt for making the blue pigment for pottery. And that's very early part. Cobalt is used to make super alloys for turbines and jet engines and all. That's importance there. That is, I'm talking about importance of cobalt in the earlier stage. In 1930, because you think that electric vehicle was just happened now. But that is not the story actually. You see Elon Musk, Tesla and all, it's booming now. So we will think about why the people have not thought about electric vehicles before. The point is that 1910, 30% of the vehicles were electric vehicles. And what happened is that US invested much amount of money on infrastructure and roads and all. And also they have invested many big amount on the shale oil and other parts as well. So that way, they tried to give more importance on the petrochem or fossil fuel based vehicles, and less importance was given on electric vehicles. That's the reason in 2010, now recently, 1,700 vehicles was electric vehicle. Compared to that, in 2021, we have 16 million vehicles. So that's the disparity of cathode and politics involvement there. Cobalt was used in Persian Empire, then cobalt was later used in for turbines and all these things. But electric vehicles did not get much boom because of politics, of importance of oils and all. Even America has a lot of oil reserves and all. But at the same time, they don't want to give more input on the electric vehicle. One reason was politics. Second reason was that there was not that much solution where they can have that sustainable charge, or they can have a reliable charge, or long lasting chargeable batteries was one of another problem, and recharging facilities as well. So that was the reason it was not having, but now that's a different situation now. And the secret of that, or the sustainability of a battery, cobalt is the secret there. So I'll give you an example about how the battery works, if just for understanding, a basic understanding. So a battery is something like cathode and anode. If you think about chemistry, it has an electrolyte. So imagine the anode side, we have positive ions and negative electrons. When you are trying to connect that cathode and anode with a wire, the ions will travel through the electrolyte to the next other opposite cathode. But at the same time, electron cannot travel through electrolyte, so it will take the path through the circuit. So that is how the charge and discharge is happening. Lithium ion, as you know before, lithium is the lightest metal. So cobalt make it stable. Even though lithium ion battery is there, without cobalt, lithium ion battery is not that much stable. So to make it stable at high densities, cobalt is really required. Mainly there are different type of cobalt in the world. Some mainly batteries are lithium cobalt oxide, lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide, and lithium nickel cobalt aluminum oxides and all. So different based on the situations people are using this one. So in generally, this is the summary of the unspeakable riches and the history and the politics all and industry as well, everything is starting there. And we'll go to the next chapter. Here it is better not to be born in Congo. Why? Talk about different names of the cities and all. I'm not capturing everything here because I'm not sure how much important it is for us to have it in the review. But this chapter is talking about Lubumbashi. So Belgian rulers, they found the mining in 1910 in Congo, and colonization, politics and hardship was there. Even during World War II era, because for bullets and all they need copper. So they were using copper reserve from this belt, including Congo, they were using that one. And as I mentioned, like the no census or anything like that. Especially, it is better not to be born here. Is that because if you born there, you are living surrounded by all these hardships and all these things there. So even your lives, as I mentioned before, the last census was happened in 1984. So they don't know whether you are part of this country. If you don't know you are part of it, if you died or if you are no more, how will you account for that? And also it is, as the major of the country is run by politics and corruption and all these things, mines are controlled by people with Kalashnikovs and all these commandos and all these things. So even Siddharth Khara, the author, he tried to get into there to understand their lives. He's telling a signature of one of that governor, his name is Dr. Lukalaba. His stamp and signature was one of the things which was saving his life. He got multiple death moments, like point blank moments with this protection of the people and all these things. So that's why, like, lives are very hard there. You don't even get the river are poisonous. Even you are working, you don't have much other work other than cobalt mining. So mining, this is bad for respiratory, lungs. We'll come across that, but generally cancers will rising there, and respiratory illness for the lungs and all by inhalation of the cobalt. It is hard metal lung disease will happen. So all these things are there. So also nowadays, because of the Chinese domination as well, like China is also getting dominated. Other countries also, it is not only China, but I'm telling US before and all this part. So mainly nowadays when the Chinese are much occupying on the mining part and all that since 2000. So that's why life is very hard in this part of the world. Even though we are using that resources, they are getting very cheap income of getting cobalt, but when it is taken out from this negotiations and depots and all, taking out from cobalt, it is being purchased for millions and trillions by the multinational companies and all. So that's a summary about that particular part. The hills have secrets, because hills have secrets in generally what it means that what's happening there, it stays there. Like usually tell what's happening in Vegas stays in Vegas. Similar to that, what's happening in Congo, in the hills, stays there. So it has a lot of secrets to tell. So from generally, if I talk about this chapter, much talk about Likashi and Kamilombe. So copper was first found in 1900s over there. Even uranium was found in 1915. Just an additional secret to this, more importantly, the uranium used for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that uranium come from Democratic Republic of Congo, Shingolabe. So you see, like, a lot of secrets are still there. We don't know them. We don't know as Congo is having that thing. We just consider it just like an African country, but they are suffering for us, and they are part of all these global political events as well. This is a little bit a long chapter because this is somehow talking about almost 300 years of Congo. I'll try to make it fast. The book starts like, of all encounters happening in Congo now, if you go to Congo now, of all the encounters you happen there, maybe you will get grenades, shells, or Kalashnikovs and all these things. The most dangerous one you are going to encounter there is the history. Just you will get the point what it is. So what is happening now, more worse has happened before. Uncertainty and sequence of events, invasion and slave. It is from 1482 to 1884. It was having invasion and slavery. Prince Henry of Portugal, he was in search for African gold. So even the Congo River, it is as I know, they were just, if you remember in your school and all, you remember like Columbus expeditions and all these things. So that expedition thing, there were some part people searching for Congo and all, because the point is that through that time Africa was somehow like a hidden part of the history. Even the Congo River, the brown of Congo River is considered that it is swallowing lot of things there, like that much deep secrets and all these things. So mainly two things happen, because one of the things, or blessing or a curse at the same time, malaria was preventing people to go into Africa, as per author. Same time, during that period, we are having like a steam engine invented and all. We have automobiles and all these things, and that way engines, boiling water invented 1850, and the following was after Dioga K, another Livingston. I think David Livingston, he was a historian who was in search for this place. So after Livingston, his follower Stanley, with the help of a slave trader Tipu Tip, they travel through the Congo and try to understand the lives of there. So King Leopold of Belgium, he made the colonization there. He made himself the owner of Congo. Actually, the Congo, if you try to estimate how much is Congo compared to Belgium, it is around more than 70 times, 76 times the size of Belgium. From 1885 to 1960, Belgium colonized the Congo. In 1885, as I mentioned earlier, German Carl Benz designed the first automobile with the wooden wheels. And later on, Mr. Dunlop, Scottish John Dunlop, made the rubber tire. And Congo was blessed with rubber trees and all. So that's how they were, I think as I mentioned earlier, they were being utilized there as well. So Joseph Conrad, the famous historian, he wrote that Belgians, they make more hurt to Congo than 7 plagues of Egypt. You know the plague, how the plague affected Egypt. So Belgian looted in that much or suffering to the country. So it was almost worse than the 7 plagues of Egypt. And after Belgians left in 1960, the 1960s and 1950 independence start with a protest by Patrice Lumumba. Lumumba joined with Joseph Mobutu and Kasu Basu, and they given them a dream plan to have the independence, like any other country who's trying to get out from colonization. They go for the dream plan. They submitted request to UN, and it was not working. They tried to go and help from Soviet Union as well. Now the politics get intervenes on this one. So because of their trying to go to get help from Soviet, they tried to, Eisenhower, the US president, he tried to make a plan to terminate Lumumba and using cobra venom in the toothpaste and all. There are little stories there. So around 30 years after just US with the United Nations and all these things, they make a strategic plan by removing Lumumba, put Joseph Mobutu as a toy for them, and they ruled another 30 years, 1960 onwards, backed by US. That was a story which is comparatively recent to this country. So that's how that part of the things works. So I hope that is somehow like a story about colonization. If we do not dig, we do not eat. Also similar, it's not much. Why I make this book a summary is because it look like something we don't know if you don't read this book. It's a very very mystery actually. Book talk about Lualaba province, Likaji and Kolwezi, because this part of this have big three mines over there. So as I mentioned previously, if you look at the trucks in Likashi and Kolwezi, number of trucks going, just stand on the road and look at the trucks going. The number of trucks will tell you that how the world economy is now. So that's how Congo is important to the two biggest mine there, Tenke Fungurume and Mutande, and that is the two biggest one. And third one is Tilvezembe. I'm not sure my pronunciation is correct, but I'll give you a quick summary about these three mines just for understanding. Tenke Fungurume is 1,500 square kilometers. It is more than the London. If you imagine a comparison. It's generally they use two-stage process there, solvent extraction and ultravining. I'm not sure how much important it is. Mainly they are using this mine to make use of copper cathode and cobalt hydroxide and all. That's about Tenke Fungurume. And another mine is 70 kilometer west of Fungurume. It is the largest cobalt producing mine in the world. Its name is Mutanda. It is 185 square kilometers in length, that mine. Even they used to tell that this mine is created. I'm not sure how much you can have an experience. I'm not sure exactly, but if you see some movies about mining and all, you will understand that just even from the picture of the cover of the book will give you that example. So if you look at pyramids in Egypt, you will see a lot of steps there, right? Imagine that steps is inverted, like going down instead of going up. So that's how 185 square kilometers, and you're having steps going down. So that's how deep, because they are making it steps so that it will not collapse. So you're going to have that much depth as well. And third mining there is Tilvezembe is smaller mining, but mainly they're artisanal mining. Artisanal mining is mainly the hardship one, because the people are mostly used there, like similar to the very old way. So as we mentioned here, because as there is no work, if you do not dig, we do not eat. Because there is no other options, because government will not support you, the aids will not reach you much. So also because it is not a proper democratic, even though they mentioned like the democratic republic and all, it is having chaos, and the history is having chaos as well. So next chapter is we work in our graves, because these all chapter titles somehow came because this is somehow like a travel summary of Siddharth Kara. So he's trying to take a lot of people's experience. I'm not mentioning all those names here, but I'm sure you will understand, get it from the book if you read the book. But generally this is from the stories he's summarizing these titles. So we work in our graves. Kolwezi, this is the area which we're talking about here. 1/4 of the cobalt reserve of the world is in Kolwezi. 80% of Kolwezi is mines. So maybe 20% only you can see some other things to do there if you want to be having a house or something there. Satellite image of this area shows dark brown and pink traps there because of this mining things and all these things. Artisanal mining, even for women and all, they're getting sexually abused and all these things. Children even climb with gravel up in the higher hills because they have to get this heterogeneous pebbles which is having, they have to then sell that one to get some money and then pay to get that dollar to get something like, they will get maybe $1 or $2 for something like that. So usually the just to give you perspective on the Kolwezi mine, It is 450 meter by 200 meter, like a rectangle, 450 meter by 200 meter and 120 meter deep. And people are working in that area. And the important is that even they are going to build tunnels and all. So for example, there are many people when they work in such a way that death is always in there available there. Because any time this tunnel can fall and you will die there, and nobody just count you died. Nobody take any criminal case or any investigation or anything for this one. So even we work in our graves. Even the lakes there is telling that it is very much contaminated, and they are feeding that water for their food. Even mosquitoes do not like to have the blood. The author is telling from the experience of the summary of the other people. So generally we work in their graves. And final truth, Kamilombe. It's also coming from final truth is somehow, as I mentioned, this talk about a schoolboy Raphael, and the schoolboy is digging, and life of the boy is buried and counted nothing. Similar as I mentioned before. So he just mentioned it as the final truth. Somehow that this is the end of the book chapter. So it's a quick summary, not very much important, but maybe some untold story or history of the world, history of one part of the electronic industry which we are not much. We know only about battery. We are very much happy if we have too much mAh or good batteries and all charging at night. We are holding it within our hands and all these devices, laptops, smartphones, EVs and all these things. But we are not understanding the sufferings of Congo river, Congo people. So in solidarity of that, we'll stop here. Thank you for watching. Until we come across with the next book. Thank you for now. Bye. Bye for now.